July 4th is coming up, so I thought I'd give some campers a little fireworks show. A couple of mortars in the campfire never hurt anyone, right?
Low-key, but way too much. Hopefully they aren't standing too close when it goes off, because that would actually be cooked. I'm so weak.
Boys, they are way too close. I didn't expect them to be this... Happy 4th, motherfuckers! July 4th is coming up, so I thought I'd give some campers a little fire...
Hey, what's up, everybody? How's it going? Just thought I would pop on, say hi to everybody. It's Wednesday night, July 2nd, and there's a little bit of news to talk about. I'm not going to stream too long tonight. Probably, definitely less than 2 hours. Joe's good to, yeah, I really like those goofy videos, the Sasquatch ones. There was another one that I really liked, but it was a little, let's just say, a little untoward. And I didn't want to play it because it was like, I don't know, Sasquatch in bed with a woman, and her boyfriend comes home, and there's a whole thing. And anyway, it's funny, but I don't think it was. I don't know. I don't think it would be appropriate per se. But so I want to jump right into some news stories because I'm not, like I said, I'm only going to stream for an hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe a little bit longer. Joe's supposed to go live, Good Logic. So when he goes live, I'm gonna send everybody over to him as long as I get some few good news stories in. So let's get this show on the road. How's everybody doing tonight? If you don't mind, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. And maybe check out a membership or something like that, or gift a membership or something if you want. We'd like to get the members in here. So let's get rolling, as they say. So look at this. First news story tonight. It says, breaking. Columbia University hacker accesses millions of student applications to see if school uses affirmative action and changes computer screens to a smiling picture of Trump. Look at that picture that they put on all the computer screens. That's pretty funny, right? I think that's pretty funny. So. Columbia University hacker accesses millions of student applications to see if school uses affirmative actions, changes computer screens to smiling picture of Trump. During disruption, an image of President Donald Trump appeared on computer screens, including public monitors in the Student Center. A hacker recently infiltrated Columbia University's admission system in an attempt to determine whether the school continues to use affirmative action policies. According to the report by Bloomberg News, the breach led to a system-wide IT outage that disrupted the university's services for nearly a week. The perpetrator gained access to 1.6 gigabytes of personal data from approximately 2.5 million applications spanning decades. Well, that's not a lot. Of 2.5 or 1.6 gigabytes of data isn't very much data. I mean, I guess maybe if it's just like data, if it's not any pictures or video, if it's just like maybe it's a lot if it's just holy crap. Why did that do that? It spilled all over me. Wow. Doesn't seem like very much data to me. That's like that's like half a DVD. Okay, the compromised information includes university ID number, citizenship status, admissions decisions, and more. A Columbia official said the initial indication showed the data was stolen through the full extent, though the full extent may take weeks or months to determine. Yeah, okay, yeah. If it's just text, Mr. Sneaky, probably, I would say that might be true. If it's just text, it's probably not that much data, or not a lot of data. If it's just text, it's probably a lot of data. If it's other stuff, but who knows? So PDFs and stuff like that, maybe. The university official also told Bloomberg that the hacker appears to be a hacktivist. In a message to the outlet via text, the alleged hacker said they targeted Columbia to find out whether the university was still applying affirmative action policies after the Supreme Court's 2023 decision that restricted such practices in higher education. On June 24th, Columbia experienced a widespread IT shutdown that left students and staff unable to access university emails and other services. By June 29th, systems had been restored. During the disruption, an image of President Donald Trump smiling appeared on computer screens, including public monitors in the student center, according to the New York Times. In a public statement, Columbia said, last week reported a technical outage that disrupted certain parts of our IT systems. We immediately began an investigation with the assistance of leading cybersecurity experts, and after substantial analysis determined that the outage was caused by an unauthorized party. Hey, J.H. Swalbuck is here. Thanks, buddy. Thank you so much for all your support. It's great to see you here. Like I said, I'm going to stream probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours tonight. Joe's supposed to go live, and I'll probably just send everybody over there when he goes live. Thinking he's going to go live maybe 11:30 or something like that. So we immediately began an investigation with the assistance of leading cybersecurity experts, and after substantial analysis, determined that the outage was caused by an unauthorized party. While the investigation is ongoing, we have restored our operations. We now have initial indications that the unauthorized actor also unlawfully stole data from a limited portion of our network. It continued that we are investigating the scope of the apparent theft, and we will share our findings with the university community as well as anyone whose personal information was compromised. Well, that's a good thing if they're letting everybody know whose information was compromised. Oh, hey, Catherine K., thanks for joining. New member here, Catherine K. became a YouTube member. Thank you very much. Everyone welcome her to the, she's starting to see things, she's paying attention. Pretty soon she'll be seeing the Matrix. It says, we have not observed threat actor activity on our network since June 24th, and we will continue to monitor closely for further unlawful activity in our systems. So that's a funny story, right? That they went and did all that stuff to try and hack into the system just to look at stuff. That's weird, right? It's odd. Odd. So let's go. We gotta jump to another story here. Quick like in a hurry. Just keep moving fast and loose, as they say. Oh my God. State Department spokeswoman Tammy Bruce says that 90% of foreign aid never actually made it to its intended destination. The amount of fraud is mind-boggling. This is what Democrats fought DOJ so hard. We need more arrests. Definitely need more arrests. Let's Go ahead and listen to what he has to say.
We are not ending foreign aid. We are making it more nimble. We are operating at the speed of relevancy to making sure that the millions and billions of dollars that we spend on aid get to where it is meant to go. There is nothing to be proud of when 90%, according to Samantha Powers, is not even making it to the people to whom it was promised. These are promises. Donald Trump makes promises and he keeps them. Promises made, promises kept. We will be doing that also now with foreign aid, with the new structure of how this will be working. We are, of course, it is in our DNA. We exist in large part because of the nature of what America stands for, as a beacon of hope for the future for the world. We've died on that principle. We live on that principle, and we are giving foreign aid on that principle, but it will be functional, it will be auditable, we will know where it's going, and we will see results.
Well, that's awesome, right? That's what we want. If we're going to give money, we want to know that it's actually doing something, that's getting where it's going. We don't want people taking the money that's just stealing it. You know, we got enough people. I mean, basically, it seems like the people stealing it are all around Washington and Virginia and stuff like that, and just been stealing the money and pocketing it. You know, I mean, we'd at least like it to get to the country it's supposed to go to. Like, let it get to Africa. Let some people in Africa steal it. You know, why does it all got to be stolen in the U.S.? So, hey, look at this. Trumpinator, hey, how you doing tonight? Says he loves Jim telling him what time it is. I appreciate that, Trumpinator. So glad to see you here again tonight. J.H. Swalbeck, hey, Joe, who is this Joe clown? He only has a case against the Supreme Court. You are so much better than him. Nah, I'm not better than Joe. Joe's a great guy. I enjoy streaming with Joe a lot. I would definitely, definitely stream with him whenever he wants, but I talked to him tonight. He's going to stream a little later. I'm not sure. He said he's working on some stuff to get going, but so I figured I would pop on. I got a few stories I wanted to talk about. I'm going to try to stream every night for an hour or two at least, and then some nights longer, just so that way people can see. You know, the more I stream, the better I'll get at this, and the more everyone will get what they want and what they deserve from content wise. So Life and Difference here says hello Life and Different. So great to see you there in the Rumble ghetto, but it's not really the ghetto. Rumble's cool. Choosy Heretics choosing Carnation Revolution now says, hooray, I'm not ridiculously late. Well, I actually started 15 minutes early, so you're not late. Joe gets his 10%. Definitely. Joe always gets his 10%. I tithe to the to my Joe. Yeah, Tammy Bruce. Tammy Bruce is awesome. You know, Rich Grinnell is awesome. I don't judge people based on their sexual preferences and stuff like that, and who they decide to sleep with. I don't really care. I don't care what adults do. You judge people by the content of their character, not by their outward appearance or by their sexual preference and stuff like that. I mean, I really don't think who somebody sleeps with really says what their character is, unless it's a crime who they sleep with. Like, I don't know. Jesus, I don't even want to get into that. Yeah. Definitely. We wouldn't have half the problems. You're definitely right. Yeah. I think she is, actually. I'm pretty sure she is lesbian. I think so. I never really asked her. Maybe I'll ask her next time I talk to her, although it might be upsetting for her. But here, we'll get Doge AI's take on her statements. It says the claim that 90% of foreign aid vanishes is a misrepresentation of how funding flows. USAID's own data shows that 12% goes directly to local partners. See, all right, this is where this is a game that they're playing with semantics, because she said foreign aid, which means all the aid from, not just USAID. USAID is just one part of foreign aid. It's not all of it. So they're trying to, like, this games they play with semantics to try and trick you. So it says USAID's own data shows 12% goes directly to local partners. The rest funds American contractors, NGOs, and multilateral agencies delivering goods like vaccine, food aid, and disaster relief. But let's be clear, DC's reliance on bloated middlemen is a real scandal. The Department of Government Efficiency terminated $1.75 billion in grants to Gavi and the Global Fund last year alone, proving even trusted channels waste billions. Oh, I would love to meet up with Andrew and Steve, but they don't know who I am at all. I mean Steve Ghazi I've kind of talked to a little bit on chats and stuff like that and stuff, but I mean Steve's not that far from me. He's about maybe an hour away from me, I think, where he's at now. So let you repost what? You can repost anything you want. Neurodivergent one. I don't know what you. I don't know what you're asking to repost, but you can repost anything you want. Hold on. What's going on? Let me look. Let me look. Let me look. What is happening? What is happening? Let me do something. It'll take me 1 second. Huh. It wouldn't let me add him. I tried to add him as a moderator, and it wouldn't let me. Huh. That's weird. Oh, that's why it's Divergence. Your name is different. You're tricking me here. I can't get it to work. I can't figure it out. Never mind. I was trying to add him as a moderator in Rumble, and it just Joe has an outage? Oh, maybe he does. I don't know. He's having a problem? He said he was going to stream. I talked to him on the phone. He said he was going to stream later. So let me see. We're at here. Says 11, so he's going to stream at 11. So it says, Foreign aid isn't just stolen, it's structured to enrich Beltway contractors first. Time to audit every dollar, prosecute fraud, and redirect resources to secure our borders instead of global slush funds. I totally agree. I totally agree. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about illegal immigration real quick here. And the Democrats always try to use scripture to make us feel like we're bad people for not agreeing with them. But yeah, Joe should be streaming at 11. I'm going to go a little bit longer, but then I'll forward everybody over there. So illegal immigration. I've been noticing a lot of Democrats on X starting to use scripture to justify illegal immigration. We're clearly not reading the same Bible, or maybe they're just reading it all, but repeating a Soros. They're not reading it at all, but repeating a Soros talking point. Oh, repost tells anyone that followed you about the stream. Okay, cool. I was trying to add you as a moderator, both you guys as moderators, and for some reason I couldn't do it in Rumble. It kept telling me you're not a. I couldn't find you guys, saying no, you're not. Like users don't exist. So I don't know. I'll have to figure out later how to do it. Maybe I can't do it while stream is going. I don't know. So here we go. Democrats misread scripture to justify illegal immigration. Leviticus 19:33 through 34 is one of the most frequently quoted verses in modern progressive catechism, often deployed in high-minded tones to argue for borderless compassion. Devin Duke, a cognitive neuroscientist, I wonder if Devin Duke is related to David Duke, with a PhD and social media megaphone, recently reached for this passage to rebuke American conservatives, quoting it as divine endorsement for granting foreign nationals the full rights of citizenship. Do not mistreat foreigners living in your country, but treat them as you treat your own citizens. Love foreigners as you love yourselves, because you were foreigners one time in Egypt. I was never a foreigner in Egypt. So I don't know. So here's this guy quoting this Bible post. On the surface, this verse appears irrefutable, but appearances deceive. And in this case, they conceal a far more complex theology of sovereignty, responsibility, and national integrity that spans the Old and New Testaments, the rabbinic tradition, and Islamic scripture. What Duke offers is not a theological conclusion, but a selective misreading, a kind of scripture ventriloquism, pulled one thread from Leviticus while ignoring the dense tapestry of biblical law. Prophetic warning and covenantal order that surrounds it. Let us begin with the fundamental premise of Leviticus 19:33 and 34. These verses instruct the Israelites on how to treat Gerim, or sojourners, resident aliens who, crucially, accepted the laws of Israel and lived peaceably among the people. These were not foreign invaders, legal squatters, or enemies of the covenant. They were, to borrow a modern analogy, lawful immigrants or refugees under the jurisdiction of Mosaic law. Leviticus 24:22 reinforces the distinction. You shall have the same law for foreigner and for the native born. In other words, the Ger was held to the same moral and legal standards as the Israelite. Oh, okay. The space, when you copy paste from the chat, you have to delete the space. That should work. I tried it. I'll try it again. Try it again. Hold on. Try it one more time. We'll see here. Rumble, 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 jungle. Rumble, rumble, jungle. Rumble, rumble, jungle. Okay. Oh, okay. You have to remove the app too, I guess. So, I guess that works. Here we go. Jim is doing stuff. There you go. All right. Okay. So now you guys, life is a different and neurodivergent one. You guys are both mods in Rumble, I think. Or someone is with your names. We'll see how it works. Okay. Now consider that what the Bible says about foreigners who do not accept those standards, who dwell unlawfully or who seek power over the land and its people. Here are the tone shifts dramatically. Exodus 23:33 is unambiguous. They shall not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me. The context here is conquest and settlement. God commands Israel to drive out the Canaanite nations, to prevent idolatry and moral corruption. This is not mere xenophobia, it's covenantal protections. Numbers 33:55 continue the theme. If you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land, those you allow to remain will become barbs in your eyes and thorns in your side. The biblical model is not integration without condition, but separation when values and loyalties conflict. did I do? How did that screw up? What happened? Oh, here we go. Deuteronomy 17:15 explicitly prohibits appointing a foreigner as king. You may not put a foreigner over you who is not your brother. This is theocratic nationalism, not globalism. This is recognition that self-governance requires a shared moral and cultural framework. Deuteronomy 28 goes further, warning that disobedience to God will result in foreigners rising in power over the Israelites. The foreigner who resides among you will rise higher and higher, but you will sink lower and lower. They will be the head, and you will be the tail. Foreign rule is not a blessing, it is a curse. Nor does the New Testament soften this stance into borderless utopianism. While Christ preached love thy neighbor and universality of salvation, the Revelation of John describes a future in which the holy city is trampled by Gentiles. Revelation 11:2. Even in I don't know. I can't. What the hell is that word? That's eschatological words, visions. I don't know. The sovereignty of God's people remains the central concern. That's a word I don't know. Castiological. Anyway, the rabbinic tradition too is unequivocal. The Talmud, Avodat Zarah 20a, prohibits selling land in Israel to non-Jews, interpreting Exodus 23:33 as a legal injunction to avoid granting foreigners a foothold. The medieval commentator Nachmanides, in his law on Numbers 33:53, makes the point explicit: Jews are commanded to possess the land and not yield it to other nations. Sovereignty in the Jewish tradition is not negotiable. Even the Zohar. Hey, Zohar, isn't that the guy running for governor or mayor of New York? Zohar Mandani, Zohar. The great mystical tome echoes this theme with eerie prescience. In Shemot 32a, it predicts that the children of Ishmael will rule over the Holy Land when it is empty of its people, but that this domination will be temporary, contingent, and ultimately overturned. Foreign rule is tolerated only as chastisement, never as ideal. Islamic scripture confirms this pattern. The Quran, 55.51, cautions Muslims not to take Jews and Christians as political allies, for they are allies of one another. It is not merely a warning against misplaced trust, but against ceding influence. The Hadith is even clearer. Muhammad is reported to have said, "Expel the pagans from the Arabian Peninsula, and two religions shall not coexist in the Hijaz." The underlying principle is unmistakable. Religious and national identity requires territorial coherence. Political sovereignty and theological integrity go hand in hand. These passages, drawn from three of the world's great monotheisms, offer a unified thesis. Hospitality is not license for invasion. Compassion is not capitulation. The stranger may be treated kindly, but he must not become your master. To quote Isaiah 1:7, when foreigners devour your fields in your presence, it is not a moment of virtue, but of judgment. Devin Duke's invocation of Leviticus, however well-intentioned or not, ignores the conditional nature of hospitality. The ger, who is to be loved as oneself, is one who abides by the law of the land and the moral code of its people. The illegitimate foreigner, the one who trespasses borders and undermines governance, is treated far differently in Scripture, not with hatred, but with clear-eyed realism. To be clear, this is not the argument for cruelty. Scripture commands compassion, but never at the cost of chaos. A nation that forgets this becomes not a beacon of mercy, but a carcass picked clean by the birds of a foreign domination. The Bible is not a manifesto for open borders. It is a charter for ordered liberty, with clear boundaries between the guest and the governor, between the law-abider and the usurper. It is no accident that even in Islamic jurisprudence, non-Muslims could live in Muslim lands only under the dhimmi system, which granted residence in exchange for tribute and submission. In other words, residency was conditional upon acknowledgement of sovereignty. When that order broke down, so did peace. In a moment when the U.S. border policy is under extraordinary strain and when progressive theologians are reaching for Holy Writ to sanctify lawlessness, we would do well to return to the actual text, not the soundbite, not the slogan, the text. For in it, we will find that divine hospitality is not open-ended, but ordered, not reckless, but reciprocal, and always anchored in the preservation of covenant, culture, and land. No. The ecclesiological means dealing with things concerning the end of the world. Okay. Thank you for telling me, Steve. I appreciate that. We're gonna check another thing. It's a quick little soundbite. It's not soundbite, but story that I wanted to look at. This says, "Hey, is it a coincidence that when Randy Weingarten became the president of the teachers union, more than 87% of Americans were proud of their country? But today, 17 years later, fewer than 36% of Democrats love America?" She got paid $10 million for her efforts. See, it says teachers union president got rich while teaching students to hate America. When Randy Weingarten took the helm as president of the AFT, 87% of Americans were proud of their country. Today, according to Gallup, that's less than 36% of Democrats have any pride for America. Randy earned $10 million for her efforts. And here it is. Here's the chart. It says right here, look, it says pride in America started at 87%, went down to 36%. Randy Weingarten started making no money, made $10 million. So this graph, it's just like, you know what they always say, that causation is not correlation, but or correlation is not causation. But I don't know, man. This is pretty. It's right there in the chart. You can't argue with the math. It says Randy Weingarten's tenure at the AFT perfectly encapsulates the rot in union leadership. Under her watch, the AFT pushed radical agendas to prioritize ideological indoctrination over education, locking kids out of schools for years, fueling division with race-obsessed curricula, and undermining parental rights. The collapse in national pride isn't accidental, it's engineered. While teachers struggled, Weingarten raked in over $10 million, proving union bosses profit from failure. This isn't about education, it's about power. Time to dismantle the bureaucratic bloat and put students, not political operatives, first. Well said, 100% correct. Yeah. Teachers taught students to hate America and embrace LGBT. Yeah, I know. It's just I understand. I know it's not all her fault. It started way before her. It's been going on since the 1960s. It was the movement of the to take over the schools. They started with the universities, then they moved on to the teaching schools. They realized if you teach the teachers can control the schools. So yeah, I agree, Hank, that parents should teach their children so they can't be brainwashed in the schools. Definitely. I just saw that. I thought it was funny. I wanted to share it with you guys. That's all. Okay. Now on to some other. This is some breaking news. A federal judge blocks DHS from canceling temporary protected status for Haitians. Federal judge blocked the Department of Homeland Security from canceling temporary protected status (TPS) for Haitians. The DHS on Friday announced the termination of TPS status for Haitians, which was expected to expire on August 3rd, with termination to take effect on September 2nd. More than 500,000 Haitians currently have TPS. TPS allows for foreigners to receive temporary relief from removal and work authorization in the United States when they can't safely return to their native country because of war, natural disaster, or other extraordinary or temporary conditions. As U.S. District Judge Brian Cogan for the Eastern District of New York, appointed by President George W. Bush, ruled Tuesday that Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem didn't follow the timeline and instructions required by Congress to reconsider TPS designation for Haitians. Secretary Noem does not have the statutory or inherent authority to partially vacate a country's TPS designation. Therefore, he said her actions were unlawful. If this doesn't make any sense, they can create the TPS status, but they can't take it away. This is crazy. This is just insane. These judges need to be put in place, and this has to stop. He says plaintiffs are likely to, and indeed do, succeed on the merits. The Haitian Evangelical Clergy Association, a labor union, and several individuals sued the Trump administration over the TPS revocation. The judge also said that the Haitians' interest in living and working in the U.S. far outweigh potential harm to the U.S. government in postponing the TPS removal. They have no right to be here. That's the thing. It's not a right to be here. This is ridiculous. Yeah, the whole world's interested in living and working in the U.S. This is ridiculous. That's just crazy. Crazy. That's it? That's all the story? Huh. This is another crazy story at the same thing. It says federal judge rules Trump's suspension of access to asylum on the U.S. southern border is unlawful. This is just nuts. A federal judge in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday ruled that President Donald Trump's executive order that suspended asylum applications at the southern border was unconstitutional. Trump signed the executive order on his first day in office after declaring that the surge of illegal migrants sneaking into the U.S. constituted an invasion of the country and therefore suspended physical entry of migrants and ability to seek asylum until the invasion was over. The Trump administration has argued that the power to declare an invasion falls under the executive branch because it oversees U.S. foreign policy and immigration enforcement. Judge Randolph Moss ruled, however, that the Constitution and federal immigration law do not give the president the power he sought to adopt an alternative immigration system with an extra statutory, extra regulatory regime for repatriating or removing individuals from the United States without an opportunity to apply for asylum. And they just want everyone to be able to come here, man. That's it. They just don't want any stop. They want the whole world to come here. This judge basically created a class of the whole world to be able to come to the U.S. Moss also declared that the order will not go into effect for 14 days to give the Trump administration time to appeal. The ruling is expected to impact a large portion of the president's immigration agenda and comes after illegal border crossings plummeted in recent months. The White House announced that the Border Patrol made 6,070 arrests in June, down 30% from May. I mean, this is just crazy. It's just crazy they keep doing this stuff. Just nuts. All right. This is the top news story today. We might as well talk about it a little. Sean Diddy Combs has been found not guilty of sex trafficking and racketeering and convicted of a prostitution offense. Oh, no, we're not going to watch this. No, that's way too long. So. Sean Diddy Combs was denied bond after being convicted of prostitution-related offenses Wednesday. He was acquitted of sex trafficking and racketeering charges that could have put one of hip-hop's most celebrated figures behind bars for life. Yeah, I'm surprised that they're not even letting him out because it's his first offense. These charges carry like a max of like 10 years and a minimum of like 12 months. So I can't see why he wouldn't just get time served. He's been locked up for a year and a half. The mixed result capped a sordid legal odyssey that shattered Combs' affable Puff Daddy image and derailed his career as a Grammy-winning artist and music executive, fashion entrepreneur, brand ambassador, and reality TV star. What to know? The bail hearing, Combs remains in custody as he awaits sentencing. His attorneys wanted him released on $1 million bond, but Judge Arun Subramanian, who was just appointed by Biden like right before he left office, ruled against the request, saying that the applicable law didn't allow for Combs' release at this point. The judge has not yet set a sentencing date for Combs. The maximum possible sentence for Combs is 10 years in prison. After the hearing's verdict, Combs held his hands up in a prayer motion, looking at the jury and hugging defense lawyer Tenny Garagos. I thought it's Tony Garagos. I swear his name is Tony Garagos. Unless it's someone else. Combs later continued to pump his right fist subtly, seemingly satisfied that he was acquitted on the most serious charges. I would think he's going to appeal, too. Combs wasn't convicted of sex trafficking. A human trafficking expert witness speaks on why. Kimberly Mann Azaraco, who holds a PhD in criminology, law, and society, and serves as a human trafficking expert witness in criminal and civil courts, said on Wednesday that the sex trafficking charge didn't stick because Combs did not engage in sex trafficking. Huh. Prosecutors argued that he controlled these women by buying them houses and expensive things, but Melman Orozco said that the polar opposite of what trafficker typically does. Traffickers will deprive you of things and take your money, she said. She also said the prosecutors weren't able to charge him with assault-related crimes because the statute of limitation had elapsed, and she said that is the problem. We have now seen an international stage what happens when you don't have long enough statute of limitations for domestic violence and intimate partner violence charges. This should be a catalyst for reform. Yeah, they want to make no. You know what? I think we should have shorter statute of limitations. If something happens, you go report it. If you wait too long, who knows what to believe. Defense lawyer Nicole Westmoreland cited Combs' decision to avail himself of his right to a trial. He actually battled for his freedom, for his innocence, and he did it. And you know, a lot of times people are too afraid to do it. Today is a major win to show the system what you can do. Combs' lawyer calls the verdict a great victory. Defense attorney Mark Agnifino said outside the courthouse that the jury got the situation right, or certainly right enough. Today is a victory of all victories, he said. As Combs left the court for a final time, he stood in front of his family, telling them, I'll see you when I get out, and we're going to get through this. He also told them, be strong, I love you. He looked towards his mother and said, Mama, I love you, stay strong. As soon as Combs was denied bail, he had snapped his head toward his lawyer and then wrote him several notes as he spoke, finally raising his hand and waving it to get the judge's attention, but he did not speak after consulting with Agnifino. Hold on. Crap. Hold on, sorry. One second. Work. Oh, damn it. Sorry. The bail hearing has ended. Defense lawyers had pressed Judge Arun Subramanian to reconsider the ruling and denying Combs' release, but Samarian stood firm. Mark Agnifino, Combs' lawyer, argued he's not going to flee. He's been given his life back. Prosecutor Maureen Comey said that the only thing that's exceptional about Combs is his wealth, his violence, and his brazeness, and his continued criminality and willingness to violate the law. Listening to Comey makes me think that we have juries, Agnifino said, taking a swipe at the prosecutor. For present purposes, the defendant is unable to meet his burden to show clear and convincing evidence as a lack of danger to any person or the community, said Subramanian. Well, I think that's what the jury said. He was only convicted of minor charges. Judge said applicable law didn't allow for Combs' release at this point. Among other reasons, Jones noted that Combs' violent history. At trial, the defense conceded the defendant's violence in his personal relationships. He wasn't convicted of any violence. Judge declines to grant Combs bond. The decision came after the jury convicted Combs of a federal prostitution-related offense, but acquitted him of sex trafficking and racketeering charges. Yeah, they convicted him of transporting people across state lines to have sex, a Mann Act violation. You know, the thing that, you guys remember, you ever seen the movie Smokey and the Bandit? That Sheriff Buford T. Pusser was, what's that his name? Buford T. Pusser? Buford T. Anyway, he was chasing them. Said, I'm going to get him on the Mann Act. Combs, 55, has been behind bars since his arrest in September. The Grammy Award-winning impresario stands convicted of 2 counts of a crime. Transportation to engage in prostitution that carries a maximum of 10 years in prison, but jurors cleared him of charges that could have put him behind bars for life. His lawyers argued that the acquittal on those counts changed the legal landscape enough that he should be freed on $1 million bond. Prosecutor said he remained a flight risk. While the law allows for sentence up to 10 years in prison, the lawyers in the case have said in court filings that the guidelines suggest a sentence would fall well short of that. Well, what was it? Buford T. Justice. That was his name. Buford T. Justice. My bad. Was the name of the sheriff in Smoking the Bandit. Sheriff Pusser was Walking Tall. Yeah, that's right. My bad. The defense suggested as little as 21 months minus what Combs has already served. Prosecutors suggested a little more than 5 years, though they cautioned they hadn't fully evaluated the conviction yet. The sentence will also be up to the judge. Combs walked in, put his hands to his lips in a prayer pose, and blew a kiss to his family. He hugged one of the members of his defense team and sat at the defense table wearing black-rimmed glasses and reading papers. Prosecutors also said in courtroom settlements their seats. Combs' family and supporters took their seats to the gallery because there's no jury. Sketch artists are allowed in the jury box for this proceeding. New defense letter provides more reasons to release Combs on bail. By its verdict, the jury resoundingly rejected the government's depiction of Combs, the letter said to the judge. It convicted him only of 2 prostitution counts, which were related to the transportation of adults whom the jury clearly found were consensual participants in sexual activity. The letter also complained again about housing Combs at the Metropolitan Detention Center, which is infamous for its horrific conditions and rampant violence and multiple deaths. It would be unjust to continue detaining Mr. Combs at the MDC even one day longer, especially since, given the sentencing guidelines for these prostitution offenses, he would otherwise be entitled to serve any additional time imposed at lower security facilities. Legal pundit thinks she knows why Combs was acquitted on racketeering. Attorney Dina Dahl said prosecutors had to show that the musical enterprise Bad Boy Records wasn't just a business that he happened to maybe commit crimes under, but that this was his criminal enterprise. Dahl said that was too much of a leap and very hard to prove. I think that's why they ended up being at the end, why they acquitted there. Combs' defense team argued for his trial that he was being singled out as a powerful black man, but at least one legal expert said his fame and celebrity helped him beat the charges of racketeering and sex trafficking that could have put him in prison for life. I think one area where the fame really matters, honestly, is that he was able to retain like a dream of team lawyers, said Dina Dahl, who was not involved in the case. A typical criminal defendant can't do that. I think it's where his fame and celebrity helped a lot. Yeah, I think we really, if we want to do criminal justice reform, I think what we really need to do is develop a way for common defendants to be able to get a decent defense. Like most people, the vast majority, 95% of the people that get charged with a crime, they can't afford a good defense. They get maybe they can spend $5-10 grand. That's it. That's all they got. That's all they come up with for defense. And that's not going to really be a good defense. So, there should be something. And definitely, I think if you're acquitted of charges, I think the government should have to pay for your defense. They brought the charges, they couldn't prove them. So maybe they should have to pay. Sorry, got a little thirsty there. All right. We're going to jump to this now. It says, former FBI Director James Comey's daughter, Maureen, suffers high-profile loss as prosecutor in Diddy trial. Wah, wah, wah. Former FBI director. Let me fix this real quick. 1 second here. That's all set up. Okay, here we go. So now I got it. All right. So now it's all set up to go to Joe's. I have the redirect all set up. Job done, Maureen Comey. I had 4 against my 1. They were overruled for 8.5 hours. Well, yeah. No, it says, I think the government should be limited to 1 lawyer against your 1 lawyer also. Yeah, I think, I personally, I wouldn't be opposed to the government having to have for everyone to be guaranteed since we're all guaranteed a defense, they got to provide you a lawyer. Why wouldn't the government, whatever the government spends on prosecuting you, they should have to give you for your defense? Seems only fair. So if they really want to get you and they want to spend all types of money, they should be willing to put up the money for you to be able to defend yourself. Seems only fair. And maybe that would make them not really prosecute cases that are not, that are kind of like questionable. That would make sense to me. They talked to channel 4, 5, and 7 and told them not to show anything. Oh, maybe we'll listen to this. Let's see. Is this actually about what they're talking about? Let's find out.
In that horrific scene in Coeur d'Alene,
No.
Idaho.
What the hell? I'm sick of this. I can't stand it. Now I'm pissed. You bastards. You bastards. They always do that. They put stuff in there that has nothing to do with the stuff. Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey played a leading role on an 8-member team that prosecuted rapper Sean Diddy Combs. In a sex trafficking and racketeering trial that came to a close Wednesday with mixed results. The daughter of former FBI Director James Comey, Maureen Comey, faced a setback when the jury found the performer not guilty of some of the most serious charges, including racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking. However, the jury did side with the prosecutors on 2 counts, finding Combs guilty of violating the Mann Act of 1910 by transporting women across state lines for prostitution. Yeah. The legal system is like the tax code and medical insurance, but it's obtuse on purpose. Definitely. Maureen Comey was a prosecutor in the Jeffrey Epstein trial prior to his death in prison, and also the lead role in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. Now, isn't it a very big coincidence that she's involved in all 3 of these cases where none of the high-profile people that everyone seems to know was involved in some of this stuff, their names never came out. So it's like, was she there strictly to protect these people? She leads the Violent and Organized Crime Unit, U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. Why hasn't she been fired already? I would have had her removed already because, SDNY is the same stepping stone her father, James Comey, used to catapult himself to national prominence. Yeah, it looks like James Comey in drag. Maureen Comey arrived at the federal courthouse during the show. The ex-FBI director and prominent Trump foe worked similarly as a federal prosecutor there in the 1980s when noted Trump ally Rudolph Giuliani was a Reagan-appointed U.S. attorney. Yeah, I think he was involved there working with a guy by the name of Whitey Bulger. He returned to Manhattan in 2000 after former President George W. Bush appointed him to the role once held by America's mayor. Later, the elderly Comey received blowback for posting a photo of stones on the beach. Many observers consider it to be a wish for President Trump's death. Yeah, we all know that. Wow. Oh, she's got some weird hands, according to that. In court, Maureen Comey offered the prosecution's rebuttal prior to being set off to deliberate. Prior to jury being set off to deliberate the charges against Combs. Maureen Comey argued that from the dais that Combs never thought the woman he abused would have the courage to speak out loud what he had done to them, and suggested the rapper believed he was untouchable. She also offered arguments that Combs had been involved in a firebombing a Porsche owned by rapper Scott Kid Cudi, according to TMZ. At the close of the trial, Maureen Comey argued to Judge Arun Subramanian that Combs should be denied bond requested by defense attorney Mark Anglifino. There is serious relevant conduct here that will merit a lengthy period of incarceration, she said. While occupationally a proverbial chip off the old block, Maureen Comey has remained largely silent during James Comey's recurring controversy. From his 8647 post that drew demands for investigation by the Secret Service to his rhetorical battles with Trump. Yeah, well, she sucks. Lauren Boebert, an appropriate officer, getting even worse. Kimberly Guilfoyle looks so different without her signature hair. I don't know what her signature hair is. What does that even mean? Kimberly Guilfoyle's getting a little long in the tooth. And speaking of also some stuff going on in New York, we'll cover this story real quick. The leader of an MS-13 clique in the suburbs of New York faces sentencing Wednesday in a federal racketeering case involving 8 murders, including the 2016 killing of 2 high school girls that focused the nation's attention on the violent gang. Why do they all have that same weird haircut looking thing? MS-13 leader sentenced in racketeering case. MS-13 leader to be sentenced in racketeering case involving 8 murders. Yeah, these are good people. They should really defend them more, these Democrats. The leader of MS-13 clique in New York suburbs is facing a sentencing in a federal racketeering case involving 8 murders, including the 2016 killing of 2 high school girls on Long Island. We're not. Never mind. Central Islip, New York. The leader of the MS-13 clique in the suburbs of New York faces sentencing Wednesday in a federal racketeering case involving 8 murders, including the 2016 killing of 2 high school girls that focused the nation's attention on a violent Central American street gang. Alexei Sens pleaded guilty last year for his role in ordering and approving the killing, as well as other crimes during the rash of bloody violence that prompted President Donald Trump to make several visits to Long Island and call for the death penalty for Sens and other gang members during his first term in the White House. Sens' lawyer are seeking a sentence of 45 years behind bars, but prosecutors want the judge to impose the maximum sentence of 70 years. Prosecutors who previously withdrew their intent to seek the death penalty say Sens deserves to live out his days in prison for senseless and sadistic crimes. 8 victims who lost their lives did nothing to deserve what MS-13 did to them. So if somebody killed 8 people and we're not putting them to death, what is the purpose of the death penalty? They wrote legal filings ahead of Wednesday's hearing that the defendants and others killed them in service of the gang without remorse in any regard to them as human beings. You know, I don't generally trust the government to put people to death, but, you know, this guy, I don't know. But Sens' lawyers have argued for leniency, saying their own legal filings that the now 30-year-old is remorseful and on a journey of redemption. No, there's no redemption. With the passage of time and much reflection, it's hard for Mr. Sens to reconcile the person he is today with the person he was when he committed the crimes. Their sentencing memo reads, he's profoundly sorry, and although he knows the families may not accept his apology, it is sincere and he accepts full responsibility for his participation in these crimes. Sens' lawyers also said he suffers from intellectual disabilities and lasting trauma from an abusive father, a difficult upbringing in El Salvador. Send him to CCOT. They say Sens was recruited and unwittingly groomed into MS-13 because he was evilly influenced and gullible high school student on Long Island. Prosecutors, however, countered that Sens has remained firmly entrenched in MS-13 while in federal lockup in Brooklyn for the past 8 years. They cited photos of him posing with other gang members behind bars, displaying gang signs and gang paraphernalia. They also say Sens has been disciplined for assaulting other inmates, refusing staff orders, and possessing sharpened metal shanks, cell phones, and other contrabands. Indeed, the same pattern of violence and mayhem that's marked his life on the street has not waned with the passage of time, prosecutors wrote. Sens, also known as Blasty and Big Homie, was the leader of an MS-13 clique operating in Brentwood and Central Islip known as Sailors Locos Salvatruch's West Side. Isn't that the group that What's-His-Face was in? Abrego Garcia. He admitted last July that he authorized the 8 killings and 3 other attempted killings of perceived rivals and others that had disrespected or feuded with the clique. Sands also admitted to arson, firearms offenses, and drug trafficking, the proceeds of which went toward buying firearms, more drugs, and providing contributions to the wider MS-13 gang. Among the killings Sands oversaw were the deaths of Kayla Cuevas, 16, and Misa Mickens, 15, lifelong friends and classmates at the Brentwood High School who were slain with a machete and a baseball bat. Other victims include Javier Castillo, 15, of Central Islip, who was befriended by the gang members only be cut down with a machete in an isolated marsh. Another victim, Oscar Acosta, 19, was found dead in a wooded area near railroad tracks nearly 5 months after he left his Brentwood home to play soccer. MS-13, or Mara Salvatrucha, is a transnational criminal organization believed to have been founded in a neighborhood as a neighborhood street gang in Los Angeles in the mid-1980s by people fleeing civil war in El Salvador. Well, maybe there's no civil war in El Salvador. Maybe they should all go home. Send them all home, 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 home. Oh, here's a nice little video. Election integrity. The DOJ ought to get ActBlue executives to turn states' evidence against high-ranking Democrats who use the platform to launder billions in illegal foreign contributions.
There's clearly some concern among their lawyers that now that the Justice Department is looking at the possibility of criminality here, that going before Congress could increase their risk. And I think that executive order that President Trump issued back in April was a very consequential moment. Donald Trump is taking this seriously. He told his Justice Department and FBI, you take this seriously because foreign money coming into our elections is a foreign interference in our elections. And so ActBlue, I think, was going to come in and we'll do our show and get out of here. And then they realized, hey, we may have some criminal liability. Now, what's being looked at? What makes ActBlue? What makes Congress concerned? We now know from the great work that Jim Jordan, James Comer, and Brian Stile did, the 3 chairmen that have sort of created a super investigation in Congress, that ActBlue had reduced its security provisions. So we all live in an era of higher cyber criminals, right? We're trying to protect ourselves more every day. We have double authentication. We use a CVV number on the back of our credit card. Well, ActBlue was doing the opposite during the 2024 election. They were not requiring the CVV number. They actually dropped some of the other security provisions they had, and then all of a sudden, to the surprise of no one who would understand the system, there were fraudulent monies moving through, according to Congress. This is what Congress has now said in its first official report on this.
The donations were a total of $16,000. Mm-hmm. Does that sound about right?
No. I'm not rich. I don't give that kind of, any kind of money.
A common thread amongst the victims was that they were surprised their names and information were being used by ActBlue.
$12,000 in donations. Does that sound right?
Laundering money, maybe?
Exactly.
When our citizen journalist asked if Janice had indeed made over 648 donations totaling around $16,000, Janice laughed and promptly stated, no, I don't believe that many donations.
I'm looking for Miss Janice Bosco.
It's me.
Janice, there were 648 donations made in your name to a super PAC. It's a election committee called ActBlue.
Right.
The donations were a total of 16.
I mean, that's just insane, right? These people, all these donations, all these things keep happening. And why haven't people been arrested? Why aren't they in prison? What is happening? What is going on? This all seems like it's obvious that there's crimes happening.
$18,000. Mm-hmm. Does that sound about right?
No.
Now meet Karen Robertson's husband. They live in Killeen, Bell County, Texas. Let's see what Karen Robertson's husband has to say about these donations, said to be made in his wife's name.
Over 600 donations that were submitted in Karen Robertson's name to ActBlue. 600? It amounted to over 12,000 in donations. Does that sound right? To ActBlue?
ActBlue maybe once a month.
Karen's husband was taken aback by these numbers, saying that's weird, and she's given them some, but not that amount. Something is wrong.
Do you think there maybe could have been some type of fraud then? Because
that's weird.
I wanted to just ask her if it sounds about right where she donated that amount of money. No. Okay.
She's given them some, but that's it. I mean, not $12,000.
Not $12,000. Sir, what do you think it's in the realm of?
That she's given?
Yeah, like fully.
$25 a month.
For how long?
A year maybe.
Okay, so we're talking nowhere near 12 grand.
$300. Something's wrong. We haven't given that much.
It's around about 12,000 in donations over 600 times.
I love it.
Yeah. And
Okay.
And so that's not only fraud, but there could be other things,
Way
like,
to go, Democrats.
yeah, money laundering or something like that.
Another potential victim's husband that our citizen journalist spoke with is the husband of Margaret Kaler, who had an astonishing amount of over 5,000 donations totaling around $136,000. Not that much money, Margaret's husband exclaims.
Margaret Kaler.
Yeah.
Just trying to get a hold of her because there was over 5,000 donations submitted in her name to a super PAC called Act Blue, which is
some time ago.
yeah, it was about $136,000, sir. Does that sound right at all to
Not
you?
that much money, but she used to give a lot. She's dimensional.
When you say a lot, what exact like what do you like? Is 20,000, 30,000, or is 100,000 too much?
100,000. Over several years.
I
don't think in 1 year.
Right. Okay. So I believe that it is, within a fiscal year, which would have been 23, the fiscal 23 year, or 2023 fiscal year.
Not in 23.
Okay.
Margaret's husband took the words right out of our mouth.
Yeah,
the donors can say.
money, maybe?
Exactly.
That's what we're wondering.
Using some of that money to go to election campaigns for Democrats, they had to use your identity because the FEC requires that donations be made by someone. So they had to borrow your name and social security number to make the donations, and you weren't aware of it.
There is a concern in the intelligence community that China, Venezuela, Iran, and Russia have been routing money through Act Blue to benefit Democrat candidates in this election. That in itself is a big explosive allegation. It was made a couple of weeks ago. Congress has since told us, Act Blue told us it's not using the CVV number that's on the back of all of our credit cards. That's the number we put in when we're buying something on Amazon or Walmart to make sure that Amazon.
Well, I don't even think they're probably not even using. They're obviously not charging people's credit cards. The money's coming from somewhere else. This is completely a fraud, and they should be able to find that somebody in Act Blue needs to go to jail because there's no way that these charges are coming across people's credit cards and they don't know it. So the money is coming from places not associated with the people supposedly making the donations.
Amazon knows we really are the person we say we are, and that's really our credit card. It's the single most important protection device that they have for credit card transactions. For some reason, Act Blue isn't using that common security procedure, and that raised some red flags for Congress. That decision to lower the barrier, to lower the security, makes everybody suspicious that maybe Act Blue was part of some effort to get dirty money into the election to help Democrats try to defeat Donald Trump, because there's no other explanation for it. If you were trying to take good care of your consumers, your donors, you would make sure they had the best security, and Act Blue was doing the opposite. So I think now the possibility that criminal or civil liability could be attached to this from the Trump Justice Department has made all of these Act Blue folks a lot more nervous, a lot quicker.
Yeah. Have they said anything to you guys at Just the News when you try to contact them? Has there been any comment from them?
They have. Listen, they say, listen, we understand the concerns. We want to do the right thing. We want to cooperate. And we don't think that we were intentionally involved in anything. Now, they said that, and then the New York Times came out and had an article with a lot of their officials saying, this place was a mess, and we're really concerned what Congress is going to find out. So the New York Times kind of actually undercut Act Blue's message with a story about a month ago that kind of followed up on all our reporting going back to last summer. We know there are serious concerns. We know there is some foreign money that came through from the early suspicious activity reports that Congress has looked at. They haven't seen them all yet. That's a very important fact. They're beginning to look at them, the Trump administration digging them up, but it is very rare to see a political donation site be the focal point of suspicious activity reports, which are essentially money laundering reports. So the Treasury Department had concerns, the Congress has concerns, Donald Trump has concerns, the Justice Department has concerns. That's probably why the lawyers and these witnesses now have concerns. They may be facing some serious liability issues.
Wow, that's insane. That is just insane. I can't believe that they're doing all that stuff. I really can't. That's just insane. Wow. How do they get away with it? How do they get away with it? How do they get away with this stuff? It's pretty clear that someone's going to get charged, but it will be the executives of Act Blue and not the Democrats. Well, it should be more people. Executives will be sacrificed. There will be a lot of pretense, hand-wringing, and fake. Oh, how could this happen on the left? Maybe some low-level DNC staffers will be sacrificed, but no elected Democrats will be held on. They can't. Someone's got to go. Someone's got to go. They need to use them as witnesses, whatever. But here's the real scandal, though, is that California transmitted 23 million mail ballots that equaled the other 49 states combined. This is crazy. This is crazy. In 2020, or 20, this is a 22, I'm sorry, this is 2024 mail-in ballots. 23 million mail-in ballots for California in 2024. It was more than every other state combined, mail-in ballots. What does that tell you about California? And that's probably why California, if you notice, for weeks after the election, California kept flipping Republicans' House seats to Democrats. You know, these squishy Republicans that are in California need to get their act together and stop letting this happen. Something has to be done. This cannot continue. It can't. We're our country is being torn away from us by cheating liars that lie. Speaking of cheating liars that lie, a new report from the CIA Director Ratcliffe concludes that 2016 CIA Director Brennan and others rushed the Russian election interference intelligence assessment. Brennan dismissed high-level warnings that the Clinton campaign opposition research, the Steele dossier, did not meet intel collection standards and risked credibility. Handling of the dossier was highly irregular and limited in analytic rigor. Media leaks reinforced narrative with high confidence that Russia intervened to help candidate Trump. Page 4. Two senior leaders of the CIA's Mission Center responsible for Russia strongly opposed including the dossier, asserting that it did not even meet the basic tradecraft standards. No, basic tradecraft standards means established collection methods, techniques, and operations. Page 5. Brennan showed a preference for narrative consistency over analytic soundness. Brennan ultimately formalized his position in writing, stating that my bottom line is that I believe that the information warrants inclusion in a report. Maybe Brennan needs to be arrested. Did he get a pardon? Worth reading the 8 full pages here. Show you what it is. This report underscores a critical failure in intelligence integrity. The CIA's 2016 assessment, driven by Brennan, prioritized political narratives over rigorous analysis, dismissing internal warnings about the Steele dossier's unreliability. This aligns with findings from the Senate Intelligence Committee's 2020 report, which confirmed Russia's interference but exposed the dossier's role in distorting the investigation. The dossier, funded by the Clinton campaign, lacked credible sourcing and was weaponized to frame Trump as a Kremlin asset. Media complicity amplified this falsehood, creating a manufactured scandal. The real threat wasn't foreign meddling, but the politicization of intelligence agencies to undermine a duly elected president. Accountability for this abuse remains overdue. When is John Brennan going to jail? It would be nice. It would be really nice to see him go to jail. And John Solomon says, Ratcliffe's scathing review finds John Brennan pushed to include Steele dossier in the 2016 assessment. CIA Director John Ratcliffe on Wednesday released a scathing review of the U.S. intelligence community's assessment of the Russian influence in the 2016 election, criticizing then CIA Director John Brennan for joining the FBI in a push to include British ex-spy Christopher Steele's baseless anti-Trump dossier. In review, Ratcliffe also criticized the CIA and FBI's high-confidence assessment that Russian leader Vladimir Putin had aspired to help Trump win. The newly released, largely declassified 8-page lesson learned review, dated June 26, focuses on the December 2016 Intelligence Community Assessment, ICA, about Russia and the November 2016 election. It was put together by the CIA's Director of Analysis at Ratcliffe's direction and concluded that the decision by agency heads to include the Steele dossier in the ICA ran counter to fundamental tradecraft principles and ultimately undermined the credibility of key judgment. The review also pointed the finger at Brennan as well as leadership at the FBI at the time. No kidding, James Comey. Ratcliffe tweeted on Tuesday in announcing the review being made public that the President Donald Trump has trusted me with helping to end the weaponization of the U.S. intelligence, and that the report underscores that the 2016 IC assessment was conducted through an atypical and corrupt process under the politically charged environment of Brennan and since fired FBI Director James Comey. Yep, Republicans and Democrats. The procedural anomalies that characterize the ICA's development had a direct impact on tradecraft applied to its most contentious findings. With analysts operating under severe time constraints, limited information sharing, and heightened senior level scrutiny, several aspects of the tradecraft rigor were compromised, particularly in supporting the judgment that Putin aspired to help Trump win, reads the report. The DA review identified multiple specific concerns, including a higher confidence level than was justified, insufficient exploration of alternative scenarios, lack of transparency on sourcing uncertainty, uneven argumentation, and an inclusion of an unsubstantiated Steele dossier material. Comey and former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe had also pushed in December 2016 to include Steele's debunked dossier in the body of the 2016 ICA on alleged Russian meddling. They were largely thwarted by the NSA and others, yet the dossier was still included in an annex to the assessment. The Ratcliffe-ordered review found the ICA authors and multiple senior CIA managers, included the two senior leaders of the CIA Mission Center responsible for Russia, strongly opposed including the dossier, asserting that it did not meet even the most basic tradecraft standards. That the CIA then Deputy Director for Analysis warned in late December 2020 email to Brennan that including the dossier in any form risked the credibility of the entire paper. Despite these injections, Brennan showed a preference for the narrative consistency over analytical soundness, which confronted the specific flaws in the dossier by the two mission central leaders. One of the extensive operational experience of the other was a strong analytical background. He appeared more swayed by the dossier's general conformity with existing theories than legitimate tradecraft concerns, the CIA said in its new review. When it declassified lessons learned document stating that Brennan had written that, my bottom line is that I believe the information warrants inclusion in the report. The CIA said in the review, ultimately, agency heads decided to include a 2-page summary of the dossier as an annex to the ICA with a disclaimer that the material was not used to reach any analytical conclusion. However, by placing a reference to the annex material in the main body of the ICA as the fourth supporting bullet for the judgment of Putin's aspired to help Trump win, the ICA implicitly elevated unsubstantiated claims to the status of credible supporting evidence, compromising the analytical integrity of the judgment. The newly released CIA review also revealed that ICA authors first learned of the dossier and the FBI leadership insisted on its inclusion on 20th December 2016, the same day that the largely coordinated draft was entered into the review process at CIA. FBI leadership made it clear that their participation in the ICA hinged on the dossier's inclusion, and over the next few days repeatedly pushed to weave the references through the main body of the ICA. CIA Deputy Director Mike Ellis tweeted Tuesday that newly declassified documents show how Brennan and Comey personally intervened to insert the Steele dossier lies into intelligence analysis. We must have zero tolerance for the weaponization of intelligence. So why haven't Comey and Brennan been charged with crimes? Arrest them. They clearly broke the law. The CIA review also critiqued one of the ICA's high confidence assessments on the Putin's motivation in the 2016 election, bluntly concluding that the aspired judgment did not merit high confidence level the CIA and FBI attached to it. January 2017 assessment from the CIA, FBI, and National Surveillance Agency, Security Agency, with high confidence that Putin ordered an influence campaign in 2016 and that Russia worked to undermine public faith in U.S. democratic process, denigrate former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and harm her electability and potential presidency, and developed a clear preference for President Trump. Admiral Mike Rogers, then leader of NSA, diverged from Brennan and Comey on one key aspect, expressing only moderate confidence rather than high confidence that Putin had aspired to help Trump election chances by 2016, by discrediting Clinton and publicly contrary or unfavorable to. The new review stated the NSA and a few other participants were not comfortable with aspiring high confidence to aspired judgment. They cited the limited source base, lack of corroborating intelligence, and the possibility for an alternative judgment as driving their discomfort. The review also found that in one instance, the authors of the 2016 ICA cited part of a credibility source report supported high confidence assessment on the first two goals of Putin-directed campaign, undermining the U.S. democratic process and denigrating Clinton, but omitting information that conflicted with the aspired judgment. The omitted information, as well as a small body of other credibly sourced reporting that also was not cited in the ICA, suggested Putin was more ambivalent about which candidate won the election. The CIA's new review does not dispute the quality and credibility of the highly classified CIA serialized report that the ICA authors relied on to drive the aspired judgment. However, given the centrality of the singular report to the aspired judgment, the authors probably should have more clearly address the uncertainty with how the cited information on Putin's intentions was acquired. The lessons learned reviewed also stated that in December 2016, two senior leaders of the CIA Mission Center responsible for Russia argued jointly against including the Aspire judgment, and that they sent a late December 2016 email to Brennan where they stated the judgment should be removed because it was both weakly supported and unnecessary, given the strength and logic of the paper's other findings on intent, and warned that including it would be open up a line of very politicized inquiry. Rogers previously talked about his view on the ICA during testimony before the Senate in May 2017, noting that sourcing was a factor in his judgment. I wouldn't call it a discrepancy, I'd call it honest difference of opinion between three different organizations, and in the end, I made the call, Rogers said. When I looked at all the available data, I was struck by, for every other key judgment in the report, I had multiple sources, multiple disciplines. I was able to remove almost every other alternative rationale that I can come up with in my mind for, well, there could be another reason to explain this. In the case of that one particular point, I didn't have the same level of sourcing and the same level of multiple sources from different perspectives. You know, human intelligence, signals intelligence. Brennan, Comey, Rogers, and then Director of National Intelligence James Clapper briefed President-elect Trump about their election meddling findings at Trump Tower in January 2017. Comey stayed behind to tell Trump about some of the dossier's more salacious allegations. There was just like they were staging a coup against him. Steele dossier annexed in ICA was largely declassified in 2020 and relied on some of Steele's baseless collusion claims. The most politically sensitive claims by the FBI source, Steele alleged a close relationship between President-elect and the Kremlin. The source also claimed that President-elect and his top campaign advisors knowingly worked with Russian officials to bolster his chances of beating Clinton. They were fully knowledgeable of Russia's direction of leaking Democratic emails and were offered financial compensation by Moscow. The Senate Intelligence Committee released a bipartisan report in 2020 defending the 2016 ICA. The panel said congressional investigators found no evidence of political pressure and determined the assessment presents a coherent and well-constructed intelligence basis for the case of unprecedented Russian interference. Yeah, because both parties suck. They're both liars. Senate findings clashed with a 2018 report from the House Intelligence Committee chaired by then Rep. Devin Nunes, who concluded the majority of the intelligence community assessment judgments on Russian election activities employed proper analytical tradecraft, but the judgment on Putin's strategic intentions did not. The House report said it identified significant intelligence tradecraft failings that undermined confidence in the ICA judgments regarding Putin's strategic objectives. The report was not bipartisan. A 2-year investigation by the Department of Justice Special Counsel Robert Mueller did not establish any criminal Trump-Russia collusion. In addition, DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz found huge flaws with the FBI's investigation, including criticizing the central and essential role of the Steele dossier and the FBI's politicized surveillance of the former Trump associate Carter Page. Yeah, they lied. A report by DOJ Special Counsel John Durham concluded in 2013 that neither U.S. law enforcement nor the intelligence community appears to have possessed any actual evidence of collusion in their holding at the commencement of the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. Yeah, they had no evidence. They just wanted to investigate Trump to try to manufacture evidence. Durham also said that the FBI ignored the fact that at no time before, during, or after Crossfire Hurricane were investigators able to corroborate a single substantive allegation in the Steele dossier's reporting. Remember when the press were running around saying the dossier was undisputed or irrefuted or whatever, and that nothing's been debunked? Nothing was ever verified. So to see how they play games, they'll say it was never debunked when it's never been verified. The Durham report also found the Bureau's rush to investigate Trump was markedly different from the FBI's action with respect to other highly significant intelligence received from a trusted foreign source, pointing to a Clinton campaign plan to vilify Trump by tying him to Vladimir Putin. Brennan briefed then President Barack Obama, then Vice President Joe Biden, and other top Obama officials on what Durham dubbed the Clinton Plan intelligence. In the summer of 2016, the intelligence concern reported approval by Hillary Clinton on July 26th of a proposal from one of her foreign policy advisors to stir up a scandal against Trump by tying him to Putin and Russia, hacking of the Democratic National Committee. Durham noted that it was also enough importance for CIA to send a formal written referral memorandum in early September 2016 to Comey and discredited FBI Special Agent Peter Strzok for their consideration and action, asking them to look into the claims that Clinton had approved a plan concerning Trump and Russia as a means of distracting the public from her use of a private email server. Wow. That's nuts. Nuts. Okay. This is a quick little story we're going to get through. It says, Poetic Justice. Kash Patel promised to close the F. Hoover building on his first day as FBI director. It took a little longer than expected, 131 days longer, in fact, but he kept his promise. The FBI will be moving across D.C. to the Ronald Reagan building, the former home of USAID. We finally have the kind of building they deserve. Poetic Justice, Kash Patel to shut down the Hoover building, move headquarters across D.C. to Ronald Reagan building. Kash Patel delivered closing the Hoover building and moving the FBI HQ to the Reagan building. The Hoover building was a crumbling monument to the bureaucratic bloat with $300 million in deferred maintenance. Patel's relocation saves taxpayer dollars while prioritizing agent safety and mission efficiency. This isn't just a real estate shuffle, it's a symbolic purge of the deep state's rotting infrastructure. President Trump's leadership ensures federal agencies finally serve the Americans, not waste resources propping up outdated symbols of DC corruption. Swamp's landmarks are collapsing. Good. Here's a little story. It says, tell the shutdown FBI who really moved headquarters across D.C. to Ronald Reagan building. President Trump touted the move, telling Fox News Digital the FBI will finally have the kind of building they deserve. I thought he was supposed to move them. I thought they were supposed to spread them out across the country or get rid of them. I don't understand it. You know, this seems like lip service, kind of. Fox News Digital exclusively lays a memo. Patel sent the FBI notifying employees of the relocation, stressing this is the most cost-effective way to serve the American people. Patel, in May, first hinted the Bureau will be relocating its workforce around the country and will move agents out of the Hoover building. The FBI and the GSA have been looking at options for the new FBI headquarters for more than a decade, including locations near D.C. and Maryland and Virginia. The FBI headquarters will be moving down the street to the Ronald Reagan building, and the Hoover building will be shut down. Trump told Fox News Digital, it's a wonderful building, wonderful group of people. The FBI finally have the kind of building they deserve, the president told Fox News Digital. Congratulations to Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and all the great people at the FBI. In a memo, Patel said the Bureau is the world's premier law enforcement agency, and headquarters will reflect that. For nearly 20 years of constant churn surrounding the matter, we've finally gone and done it. The move will be the most cost-effective way to serve the American people while most efficiently using the resources available to us. Patel said the move will also simultaneously get our awesome workforce modern, safe, and superior HQ location that will allow us to build for the future, attain mission success, while being the most tremendous stewards of taxpayer dollars. Patel told the FBI that he's working closely with Congress and GSA to make the move happen quickly, and said there's a lot of moving pieces. We need to ensure that our security and technology requirements are in place before HQ employees can begin making the move. Thanks in advance for your patience and for staying the course. Please join me in celebrating this historic milestone for the FBI. I'll also thank FBI officials and employees for all you do for the country. And welcome to your new FBI headquarters. A source with permission with the decision-making told Fox News Digital that the Hoover building is a dump and is not just unsafe for FBI workforce, but unsafe for our country's national security. In 2024, the GSA said it would take more than a decade to build a new FBI headquarters. It says FBI has badly needed significant upgrades after decades of debating, and the President, Administration, and Director Patel are delivering, allowing the Bureau to far better serve the American people at much lower cost of taxpayer than the alternatives. If you're going to come to work at the premier law enforcement agency in the world, going to have to give you a building that can commensurate with that. And it's not that place. Okay. Well. And then Andrew Branca said, that's this building, by the way. Well, this is going to be the last story for tonight. The breaking news: Trump wins $16 million settlement from CBS in 60 Minutes. The media just paid Trump again. this time over their deceptive Kamala Harris interview. Here's what happened and why it changes the rules forever. Trump sued CBS, 60 Minutes, and parent company Paramount after they aired two very different Kamala interviews. Same question, two contradictory answers. One version on Face the Nation, another heavily edited on 60 Minutes. Trump's team said CBS deceptively edited Harris's word salad on Israel to cover up how unfit she sounded. The complaint said CBS crossed the line from exercising judgment and reporting to deceitful, deceptive manipulation of news, election interference. The legal genius. Trump didn't sue for defamation. He sued under Texas consumer protection law, claiming deceptive practices in commerce. He also alleged a violation of the FCC's anti-distortion rule for news coverage during an election. Game, set, match. Here's why it's a big deal. Media companies don't settle cases like this ever. They usually hide behind the First Amendment and fight to the death. Settling means they knew they were going to lose badly. The result, CBS and Paramount pay $16 million. Money goes to Trump's presidential library. CBS must publish full transcripts of all interviews with U.S. president candidates from now on. Huge precedent, game changer. This is just the latest win for Trump and a war on the corporate press. CNN, Washington Post, Disney, ABC, Univision, New York Times, and now 60 Minutes and CBS. Oh. Well, thanks for coming by, Hank. I hope you liked the video and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. Hope to see you again soon. Trump fights, Trump wins. And the kicker. Trump's team says this won't be their last lawsuit. They've been warned, if you lie, manipulate, or doctor content to protect the Democrats, you'll be next. The game has changed. Trump didn't just win $16 million, he exposed the media and made them pay. Yes, you can fight people who buy ink by the barrel, especially when you have nothing at all to lose. Let that sink in. Says, election integrity. American voters are now well aware that deceptively edited its pre-election interview with Kamala Harris in an effort to convince them that she wasn't completely incompetent. Now they've agreed to pay $60 million plus legal fees to President Trump's presidential library to settle the case. The network will not apologize to the American people. Fox News reported the settlement could ultimately reach more than $30 million to settle Trump's election interference complaint against the broadcast news network. Paramount has agreed that its storied but troubled television news magazine will release transcripts of sit-down with presidential candidates moving forward, subject to redaction as required by legal and national security concerns. They agree to pay $60 million. Stunning victory for election integrity, proof that media meddling has consequences. The refusal to apologize exposes the left's arrogance. Editing interviews to prop up Kamala's foundering campaign. Trump's legal savvy crushed their narrative, while conservatives celebrate a market-driven rebuke to liberal bias. Fact, Harris' approval rating sits at a dismal 38%, reflecting voters' disgust with Democrat deceit. Yet CBS doubled down. Trump's push for transparency aligns with American values of accountability, not the left's sanctimonious cover-ups. The settlement humiliates their sham of journalism, pathetic attempts to sway elections with scissors and tape. Laughable how the left squirms now, outwitted and outspent. The Federalist has a story about it. CBS Paramount set to pay $60 million to settle Trump's 60-minute lawsuit. Settlement of CBS News cheap fake Kamala Harris, the latest win for the president against Trump-hating corporate media. And then CBS News has a slightly different version where they're like, Paramount will settle the lawsuit over a 60-minute interview. For $16 million, the company announced late Thursday. CBS parent company worked with a mediator to resolve the lawsuit. Under the agreement, the $16 million will be allocated to Trump's presidential library and the plaintiff's fees and costs. Neither Mr. Trump nor his co-plaintiff, Texas Rep. Ronnie Jackson, will be directly paid as part of the settlement. The settlement did not include an apology. Should have. Paramount also agreed that 60 Minutes will release transcripts of interviews with presidential candidates in the future, subject to the redactions. The lawsuit filed last October when he was still a candidate for president, was widely viewed as an attack on the First Amendment. How is it an attack on the First Amendment? The First Amendment doesn't protect them deceptively editing things to help somebody. I'm sorry, Steve. I do sometimes talk fast. I'm trying to rush through the story so that I can forward everybody over to Joe and go join his chat, because I feel bad doing a stream while he's streaming. I just do. The lawsuit was filed in Amarillo, Texas, a portion of a federal district court where the sole judge and a 2019 Trump appointee It was based on a state consumer protection law that intended to prevent advertisers from misleading the public about a product being sold. CBS News is not headquartered in Texas, nor did the interview take place there. Oh well. He initially sought $10 billion in damages, but when he filed the suit in October, but upped the demand to $20 billion in February after adding a federal claim alleging false advertising and unfair competition. Jackson, a Texas Republican, joined Mr. Trump as a plaintiff in the amended complaint. Paramount has maintained the lawsuit was completely without merit, and that 60 Minutes followed the standard editing process. Come on, anybody believe that? That's ridiculous. Weeks later, Wendy McMahon, who served as president and CEO of CBS News, announced she was also departing. It's become clear the company do not agree on a path forward. First Amendment scholars and constitutional experts largely viewed the lawsuit as frivolous. First Amendment scholar and law professor at the University of Chicago explained the statutes about sales. A salesperson can be held liable for stating a product has certain positive effects when he knows it doesn't. But CBS is not engaged in advertising here. I think they were engaged in advertising for Kamala Harris. They clearly were trying to help her. So, well, I want to thank everybody tonight for coming by. I know this is a short stream. I will be streaming tomorrow, Thursday night. I'm going to try to start maybe around 9:30, 10 o'clock. Go for an hour and a half or so. If Joe starts streaming, I'll do the same thing. I'll forward over to him. And then I'll be streaming Friday night. The Friday night stream will be a long stream. Friday will go from 10 to probably around 1 or 2 in the morning. I'll try to do maybe a goal or something to raise some money or get some memberships or something on Friday night. And then, of course, Saturday and Sunday I'll stream too. So I want to thank everybody for coming by. I want to thank for all your support. Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to come here for Jim to tell you the news.